What are the object-oriented programming principles?
Hello all you techies, welcome to TechCorner-JavaConCafe. I'm Dhruti and today we are going to talk about object-oriented programming principles. We've already seen what is object-oriented programming in the previous vlog. In case you have not seen that, the link is given in the description box. Go through it before going to this vlog. And I've already told you that Java is an object-oriented programming language, and it's important for you to know what are the 4 pillars of object-oriented programming. So what are we waiting for? Let's go for it! Okay, so object-oriented programming principles. This paradigm, that is object-oriented programming, works on 4 principles, that is encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance and polymorphism. Encapsulation, when you are talking about, it means that you are going to encapsulate something or enclose something into a secure space. Number 2 is abstraction. To abstract something means to hide something from vision or from external environment, and to hide the implementation of a certain process in a more technical term. Number 3 is inheritance. It's a very commonly used term that you inherit something from your ancestors, okay, and it allows you to create a hierarchy of classes. And polymorphism is something that will have multiple forms. This is just an introduction. We are going to see in depth what each of these principles means. But for now, you need to remember that there are 4 principles of object-oriented programming: encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. So let's go and understand what is encapsulation in detail. Okay, so now we are going to study each programming principle, object-oriented programming principle in detail. So we are going to start with encapsulation. As I told you, encapsulation is nothing but enclosing something in a secure space. Okay, so for example, in daily life, like for example, if you have a bank account, only you can access your bank account. You cannot access the bank account of some other customer that might be using another account to access his banking details. Or maybe a key to your house. You or your family members only will have the key to your house or your office. Not everybody in the world will have a key to your house or office. In short, we are trying to enclose something in a secure space and restrict the access to that particular object or something which is precious to us, so that nobody can access it without permission. Likewise, in programming also, we will use encapsulation in order to hide, or you can say enclose, the data members and the methods of a class, so that objects cannot be able to access them directly without appropriate permissions. So that's about encapsulation. It's very simple. You enclose your data members and methods into a class to restrict access from outside by objects. Simple, right? Okay, so how do you use encapsulation programmatically? So I told you that the idea of encapsulation is to enclose your data members and methods into an enclosed structure, which we will call here as a class. So on the screen you can see that there's a class called calc, which is short for calculator, and we have 2 data members, that is x and y, which are supposedly going to store some number. And then we have 2 methods or functions or procedures, whatever you want to call it, but we call it methods, called sqrt, which supposedly will calculate the square root of a particular number. And we have another method called mul, which is short for multiplication, which is going to multiply the 2 numbers. So you can see that we have created 2 objects, obj1 and obj2, and you've seen that obj1 is allowed access to the first method, that is sqrt, and the obj2 is allowed access to the method, that is mul. In short, we are trying to signify over here how the data members x and y and the methods sqrt and mul have been enclosed into a structure called the class calc, and how these objects have been restricted to access only a particular method instead of accessing the data members directly. Okay, and the values for these data members are going to be passed into the method when the object accesses that method. They will not be allowed to directly access x and y data members of the class. I hope you understood this. In short, we are trying to explain how to programmatically depict encapsulation using class. Okay? Okay, so we're done with one principle of OOP, that is object-oriented programming. The next one is abstraction. Abstraction, as I told you, means we need to hide the unnecessary, irrelevant implementation details of a process from the end user. For example, in your daily life, you must be using several digital devices, like you use your TV, you use your camera, you use your fridge, you use your washing machine, etc. So let's say we take example of the washing machine. We use washing machine every day. What we do is we dump the clothes into the washing machine, we put powder in it, and we just click the buttons given on the digital panel as per the instructions, and the rest is the job of the washing machine. In short, the implementation details of the process of what exactly happens inside of the washing machine to wash the clothes is not shown to the user, is not known to the user. So similarly in Java, or sorry, I would say in object-oriented programming also, abstraction is used to hide the implementation details of certain procedures, certain functions, or even at a broader level objects which are of no concern to the user. So I guess you understood that abstraction means hiding irrelevant, unnecessary implementation details from the end user. It's very simple, don't worry. Let's go ahead. Right, so the next object-oriented programming principle is inheritance, a very simple concept which is part of our day-to-day life. Inheritance is something that allows you to pass on your characteristics, your inheritance, which could be money, property, assets, behavior, looks, everything to your next generation or your successors. For example, very simple example, that as a child we inherit a lot of characteristics from our father. Father inherits some characteristics from his father, which is our grandfather, and so on. So this is inheritance in daily life, wherein we inherit the characteristics or behavior or traits of our ancestors, our predecessors, and we might look like them, we might behave like them, etc. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, so like inheritance is seen in day-to-day life, we can also apply the same inheritance principle in programming as well. So in object-oriented programming, the fundamental of inheritance allows you to create hierarchy of classes. So what is this hierarchy? Normally we would create a hierarchy of those classes which have some characteristics in common. For example, an animal, okay, can be a parent class for a dog, okay, and dog can be a parent class for a poodle, etc. In short, what we are trying to say is that when we have certain objects which have common characteristics, which can be reused, common behavior that can be reused, we can create them as a class hierarchy. So the topmost class that is going to be holding all the common characteristics will be the parent class, and then the subsequent classes that come beneath it that go on inheriting those characteristics will be the child classes or subclasses. So in short, we make a superclass, subclass kind of situation in order to allow reusability of those characteristics and features and behavior that are common amongst objects. So that brings us to what kind of inheritance can be created. So inheritance can be created in several ways. For example, there can be single inheritance, wherein a class will inherit only from one parent. Okay, so there will be one child class and one parent class. Then the second is multiple inheritance, wherein you would have a class which will inherit features from more than one class. For example, we all have two parents, a mother and a father. So we have followed a multiple inheritance. We have inherited some characteristics of our father and some of our mother. Similarly, there is multi-level inheritance, in which there can be one superclass, then a middle class, and then a child class, similar to grandfather, father, and son. Then there is something called as hierarchical inheritance, in which you will go in the form of hierarchy, like an inverted tree. And then there is a hybrid inheritance, which is a combination of multiple, multi-level, all these inheritances. So we won't go into the depth of all this, but for now you need to understand that In object-oriented programming, inheritance is a very important concept because it allows you to reuse characteristics and behavior of objects. So it's important. You must know this. Right, now we are done with encapsulation, abstraction and inheritance. The last important principle of object-oriented programming is polymorphism. So I told you that polymorph is something, poly means multiple, morph means forms. It is something which can have multiple forms. For example, in real world we see a lot of animals and a lot of objects that can change, or they can have multiple forms, or they can change as per requirement, either to protect themselves or for some other reason. For example, you take a chameleon. A chameleon is an animal that can change its color and blend with the surrounding in order to protect itself from predators. Okay, then similarly we have a amoeba which can, change its shape in order to move, further into the environment, as per the surrounding. So it can mold itself as per the surrounding. So similarly, there are several other objects, or you can say animals, living forms, plants that can, modify the structure or behavior based on the requirement, based on the surrounding or any kind of situation. So that is polymorphism, means multiple forms. Okay, so now you know what is polymorphism, or what is a polymorph. It is something that can have multiple forms. So in object-oriented programming, also we can implement the polymorphism principle by allowing the objects or the methods to change its implementation based on requirement. Means we can reuse them in a different way, or by changing its functionality, or by changing the way it works, in order to fit that particular requirement without changing its actual structure or form. Mainly, if I go to tell you, polymorphism is implemented using features like overloading, overriding, a polymorphic variable and generics, and there are several other ways, but these are like most common. What is this? Don't worry about it. This is just for your knowledge right now. These things will come up over a period of time when we start doing the actual programming, and then I remind you that okay, this is polymorphism or implementation of polymorphism. So right now just remember that in object-oriented programming, polymorphism will be used to give different implementation to your methods and your objects at large as per your requirement in code. Okay, it's very simple, don't worry guys. Right, so that's all from me today from TechCorner-JavaConCafe. Let's do a quick summary of what we've done today. We've seen what are the 4 object-oriented programming principles, starting with encapsulation, wherein we use a class in order to enclose the data members and methods securely so that objects cannot directly access it without permission. Number 2, we've seen abstraction, wherein we abstract the implementation details of a process from the user, which is of no concern of the user. Number 3, we have seen inheritance, which allows us to create a hierarchy of classes of those objects who have common characteristics and can reuse those characteristics and behavior across several other classes. Number 4, we've seen polymorphism, wherein we allow an object or a method to behave differently or to be implemented differently as per our requirement. So it's pretty simple guys. You have to remember these 4 principles forever when you are doing programming in Java or any other object-oriented programming language. I think it's pretty simple and you will understand it better over a period of time. So that's all from me from TechCorner. In case you have not understood anything, all you have to do is write to me on itcom@gmail.com. You can post your comments in the comment section and we'll work on that. Again, I repeat, if you have any specific video requirement, tutorial requirement, let me know. We'll create a vlog for that as soon as possible. So that's all guys. Have fun and take care and keep smiling because smiles are contagious. Ta-da!